is Anarchast.
Hey, unschoolers, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I'm really excited to have on not only Dayna Martin, who is a past Anarchast guest almost 2 years ago, but her entire family. And the reason is because we're going to talk about unschooling today, a lot about it. It's something that I didn't even really know what it was until I spoke with Dayna in our first Anarchast interview in February of 2013. And it really blew my mind that I didn't even know that there was different ways that you could do this. You can have families and completely avoid schools altogether, and it still actually works better in many ways. It's fascinating, it's exciting, and Dayna Martin and some of her family, if not all, will be coming down to Anarchapulco. She's going to be doing a one-day workshop on radical unschooling on February 26th, and so we're going to talk all about that, and she'll be here, and for anyone who wants to come down, bring their families, or just if you come with a couple who has kids, you can learn about these different ways of living. So I'm super glad to have the entire Martin family on. A real pleasure. They've been on so much media. They've been on Wife Swap on, I think it was CBS. They've been all over the place. Dayna's been all over the media with what she's doing. So it's really exciting. So I'm going to stop talking now and let her talk and her family talk a little bit about unschooling. So Dayna, for the people that don't know too much about it, why don't you just start by telling people in general the way that you've been living your life?
Hey, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, we have been unschooling since day one, and there's many different ways to define it. But first off, I'd like to say it's living life without school. I think people hear the term unschooling and they think it's uneducating, but that's not the case. It's living life as though school doesn't exist and letting go of the institutionalized mindset of learning altogether. Our children have never been to school, and they are avid learners. They pursue their passions, and our role is not as their teacher, but as their learning facilitator. So we facilitate whatever they're interested in, and they grow and learn so much as a result. So it's the idea that learning isn't separate from life. Learning is part of life, and yeah, we live life in that mindset all the time.
I think it was Mark Twain, a very smart person, who said that he tries not to let school get in the way of his education. And I totally agree with that. I've been talking about that for years, that the school, for the most part, is really pretty useless. All information is available on the internet. And there's so many other ways to learn things and learn things you want to learn and not be forced to just memorize things from some school, that it's absolutely fascinating. We have your entire family there, so I'd like to sort of get some comments from anyone involved, including your husband Joe, if you want to talk a little bit about how you've been enjoying this sort of lifestyle.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, there's no downtime, but there's no separation time. You know, the kids aren't shipped off to school and then hustled to soccer camp and off to the next school function that's pretty much dictated and or mandated by the school. A lot of times if you want to take place in the sports, you can't miss a day of school, you can't miss a day of practice, which, I understand that to a certain degree because you're on a team and it's a team thing. And I think that's a way that the schools look at almost everything is if you're not there for them, then you shouldn't, then you're punished or they held that against you. So as far as our family goes, we just kind of freestyle everything. We go when we want, we go to sleep when we want, we wake up when we want, we have dinner when we want. I think we ate dinner at 10 o'clock last night, when most people were probably already, telling their children to go back to bed for the third time because it was a school night. So it's pretty interesting, especially with it, when you're brought up in a traditional family style, and then all of a sudden to go to this, radical new way of thinking is amazing and very fun.
It's fantastic, and I think you'll get along very well in Mexico. That's around when we do have dinner down here on around 9 or 10 is sort of dinner time in Mexico in general, especially in Acapulco. So you'll enjoy that, and there is no closing hours. There's no specific times for anything. So I think you guys will really enjoy the sort of lifestyle here in Acapulco. It's very along the same lines of how you like to live your life, and that is just go with the flow, and there's no set exact times or dates that you have to do something, unless of course you make a commitment to somebody, and that's of course very important. If you say, I'll meet you tomorrow at 2 p.m. at Starbucks, you should be there at 2 p.m. But aside from that, you don't have to live your life in such a structured way. One of the things that I think is so great about what you guys are doing, and I see Dayna all the time on Facebook, she's always posting things that your kids have, they're always creating things. They're very entrepreneurial minded. I think Devin has created numerous businesses. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, right now, well, my business is, let's see, first one was, I was very young, and I'm not sure if my mom had mentioned this, she likes to, but it was, it was a little chocolate business called Devin's Confections. I think I was 6 or 8. I don't think I ever sold anything, but there was a website for it, and
You sold a few things.
okay, I don't even remember. I was way too young to remember that, but
Hey, first attempt at business, that's the way it goes.
Yeah,
But a good,
yeah.
good first attempt.
and then I think, now I'm selling knives at Willow Ironworks, and I'm selling whatever I can make. Really, I do commission work a lot for people, and yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much.
You do the cutting boards?
Oh yeah, I do cutting boards and stuff like that.
Like the weaving, the slings, and the...
Yeah.
It's funny, he made a loom the other day and made a scarf, and just from posting that one picture of the scarf, we had an offer for him to make more scarves. And so I think just by sharing your life, and when you can make money off of doing what you love, I mean, that to me is everything, is to be able to say to yourself every day, like, I can't believe I get paid for this. I love it so much.
Yeah, that's the way to live. And it's so funny that Devin's into making knives right now. Of course, in the UK at the moment, they have an anti-knife campaign. And there was also a kid just this week in the UK who they're talking about suspending him from school because he started a business selling candies, and he made £14,000 selling candies in the school. And of course, that's not allowed in school because you can't actually be productive and actually learn how to make money in school. That's very against the rules. And then on top of that, there's an anti-knife campaign. So I don't think Devin would get along very well in the normal, regular school system.
I don't either.
No, I can't. Some people have asked me all the time, what if your kids want to go? And they have the freedom to choose school or not, but I can't imagine them ever choosing a situation where obedience and compliance is the main focus, and they're told what to do all day and have to raise their hand to go to the bathroom and everything else. Just the whole herd mentality isn't natural.
And it's interesting that, the whole, just to digress about the knife thing real quick, we were contacted by another local blacksmith who wants Devin to come speak at an event, a small event at a local library that'll have school children at it about building his blacksmith and or building his forge and becoming a blacksmith. And so it's kind of interesting that, he'll have a little 15-minute speech to tell the school kids, how it is to not be in school and build a forge. So
That's great. And I think Dayna has a saying that my unschooled child will be the boss of your honor student.
Yeah.
And you can already see that. He's going to schools to try to teach the poor kids who are in these schools how to actually make a living, which after 18 years in the U.S., they usually get out of high school and they've been this 12 years of indoctrination and they don't know how to do anything. So then they go into college. So they go for a few $100,000 more worth of debt and mostly wrong information. And then they get out and they still can't do anything. They're 22, 23, 24, and they go to employers, and the employer's like, well, what can you do? And they're like, nothing. I'm 24 years old. I've never done anything in my entire life. And then they complain. They go, well, I can't get a job. They all want some sort of work experience. It's like, yeah, you've sort of wasted about 20 years there. You're going to have to start to learn now. I think the U.S. has the oldest children in the world now, especially with these drinking laws. You can't even have a beer until you're 21. Of course, you can go fight wars. You can go murder people around the world on behalf of the U.S. government when you're 18, but you can't have a beer until you're 21. It's completely ridiculous. One of the real great things, and just so people know, I can't see the Martin family right now. Their webcam isn't working, but they're recording on a separate camera. So I don't know what the dynamics are there. I don't know who's all there exactly or who's interested in talking. So just feel free to chime in, anybody who wants to speak. I don't want to pressure anybody if they don't want to speak. But one of the interesting things that Oh, I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? Oh, about wife swap. That was so interesting. For people who haven't seen this, Dayna has, we'll put the link down below. They keep taking it down due to government copyright things and all those ridiculous things. But I think it's still up. And she was on, was it ABC or I think it was ABC, right?
ABC,
Yeah, ABC, yeah.
Yeah, it was a wife swap. It was one of the most I watched it twice. I loved it so much. Dayna switched families with another family, and the other family was the most extreme statist style family you can imagine. They saluted the flag, they loved the Pledge of Allegiance, and they just, you have to do it this way, and a lot of violence and a lot of yelling and a lot of discipline, as they call it. And so Dayna went to their house for about a week, and then this other woman, a very interesting woman, went to Dayna and Joe's house, and the dynamics in both houses were just amazing. And it was so clear at the end of it which family had a better way of living. And so we're going to put the link down to that down below. You have to watch. It's amazing.
Tonight on Wife Swap, two very different wives.
I think schools are like prisons.
A free-thinking radical whose children have never been to school.
Unschooling is the belief that learning happens just through living life, and learning is like breathing.
Our 11-year-old daughter has started to teach herself how to read through texting.
And a strict by-the-book disciplinarian.
Do that look neat to you? Order is a part of our lives.
She even made an excellent drill sergeant.
Swap lives for 2 weeks.
So, like I said, I can't see anyone there. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything, or just feel free to comment if you like on anything.
Well, the interesting thing was that I was able to witness the results of punitive authoritarian style parenting by being around these children. The first night that I was there, and keep in mind, it's not scripted. I mean, it's what you see is real. The only thing orchestrated at all are the scenes. So they tell you, like, we're shooting the dinner scene, and they give you a basic idea, but they want it to be natural. The first night I was there, and Cindy didn't stay at our house. So that's another whole level of craziness, because I know it's because she was fearful.
Right.
Just of being somewhere so different, the country, and she's used to the city. But the first night, it was probably 10 at night. I was in bed. It's always awkward. I'm at the stranger's house. The whole crew is gone. They're at the hotel, and I'm just in the bedroom, and somebody knocks on the door, and I'm like, hello? And Jory, the 17-year-old, said, Dayna, can I talk to you? And I said, sure. And I came out, and he said, I got to show you something. And he opened up the laptop, and he said to me, looked at me, and he said, I know you asked me on camera what my passions were. And I had to say so I wouldn't get in trouble, that it was football and what I shared on camera, but I want you to know that I'm so much more than that, and look at this. And he hit play on this YouTube video, and it could bring me to tears thinking about it. He was rapping, and he made this whole music video, and it was amazing. And he said I could never tell my parents, they'd kill me if they knew I did this in my spare time. And it was amazing that he felt so comfortable with me right away to share who he really was. And he basically begged me not to tell his parents, and I said, I won't, no worries.
Now you're telling the whole world.
Well, I mean, it's 2 years later, he's 19. Hopefully he's not fearing the repercussions of doing that now. He's actually in the military right now.
Really?
Oh, was that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Yeah, time flies, but it was 2 years ago. So I loved that. I love that my kids never have to tell me what they think I want to hear, that they can be who they are and they're totally accepted. And that's the other aspect of living an unschooling life, is it's not just about education. It's about living in a partnership-based paradigm rather than the traditional authoritarian paradigm. And we focus on the needs of everybody in the family equally, and everyone's an individual. And we're really happy this way.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And just to see the dynamics of it was amazing. That's why I'm so excited you're coming down. I think more people need to at least see these sort of ways of life. That's why I actually called the Anarchapulco conference, I called it Rethink and Reinvent All the Things. Because what a lot of people who are coming down are they're just rethinking. They're not just taking the normal way that people do things and taking that as the only way that you could possibly do it. And people like yourself have found out that if you just try to do a different way of living, it can be so much better. And so you're going to be down here February 26th. I think we still have it at $95 for an entire family. So if you come down with your family for just $95 for an entire day with Dayna and her family, I'll be there as well. I'll be there with my family because I want to learn more ways, more things of how you can live life differently. So it's going to be amazing. That price will go up to $145, by the way, in the next few days. So if you do want to come and you want to save $50, you should register quickly, and we'll have all the links to that down below. But yeah, it's fascinating. It's amazing. I'm so excited. And my kids as well, they're very entrepreneurial. They're actually in a Montessori school right now, and they want to go. And I actually went to the school, and I couldn't believe it. It's literally paradise for kids. Olympic-sized swimming pool. It's all outdoors. Everything's games. They learn through games, and they just love it. And it's about $400 a month, by the way, for the best Montessori school here. Yeah, these are different ways. But I always have in the back of my mind, I'm always like, oh, I can't. I hope next week they're going to tell me they don't want to go anymore. And they're always coming up though, and they're always saying, like, for example, my son always wants new video games. He just loves video games, and GTA 5 just came out. I just was watching him play that with all the hookers and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, God, what do you think about all these girls? What are they doing? I'm like, I don't know. You just gotta, that's life. You gotta figure out what's going on. And but he's always like, oh, he actually asked me for Christmas. He said, how many things can we ask Santa for? They still believe in Santa. And sorry, I don't know who's there. Yeah, Santa's real. And so they, so he goes, how many things can we ask for? And I said, well, what do you want? He goes, can we ask for like 100 things? I was like, no, Santa's not really rich. And plus, that's crazy. You don't need 100 things. And they said, well, how many? I said, like 1 or 2 things. And he said, can I ask for gold and diamonds? And I said, why? And he goes, because with those, I think I can buy pretty much every video game I'd ever want. So that's the kind of ways that they're thinking. It's really exciting, really amazing. Again, I can't see you, and I don't know if anyone there, who else is there besides Devin. You have your other kids, I believe, there. If they have any interest in saying anything, I'd be happy to hear from them.
Sure. I mean, Orion's here. He's 6. Ivy's 9. And Tiffany's 13. She's not on camera, but she's here. And Devin's 15.
I would just like to, I didn't want to interrupt you. You're talking about the conference. And one of the funnest things about the conference for me is to see people's minds get blown. It's kind of like when you could relate it to almost anything in the world, but healthier eating or exercise. So you see someone who lost 100 pounds and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't know I could do this. Or, and that's kind of what it's like. It's like this eye-opening experience where people come in not really understanding, or maybe have read a book or saw a video and they think they know what it is. And then by the time they leave an event like that, especially this total immersion, 8, 12 hours or whatever it is that they're going to just have their minds opened to this new way of thinking and they walk out of there and it's almost like you're tired from it, but it's also this, you can't wait to get home and try it and go on to the next thing and just keep learning. And just, like I said, it's like anything. I'm going to start a garden, you do a tiny flower bed. Wow, you're so proud of yourself. Next thing you know, you've got 5 acres of corn growing. And I think that's what people will experience if they come down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
for sure. Our kids have never been to Mexico. They're looking forward to the life experience of coming down there. I recommend that anybody that is interested in unschooling come spend time with us and come to this event, because half of learning is being around people that are doing it. And it just will automatically raise your consciousness, just being around people that are aware and living a different mindset. So it's a lot different than hearing an interview, to be in the presence of people unschooling and living in freedom. It's really powerful. So
being able to bounce questions and get an immediate answer instead of shooting off an email, never knowing if it's even going to make it to an inbox or if it's worthy of getting a reply. You're on the spot. You have to get some sort of answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super looking forward to it. I know you've done a number of your own events yourself, Dayna. I know you do also some sort of consulting over things like Skype for people. So it'll be really great to see you in action and all of you down here. It's going to be amazing. So for people watching, maybe we should just answer 1 or 2 sort of common questions before we finish. But in general, I just want to say that what I've learned about this way of living is, like Joe said, mind-blowing. And if you don't know much about it, you really, if you have a family especially, and even if you don't, I know so many young anarchists that they actually know a lot about things like unschooling and peaceful parenting, and they're so excited about it, they're just dying to have kids so they can just do it. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be amazing. Let's just briefly, though, because some people are, I know some people are going to be watching, they're going to be like, well, I can't live that way. And we're not saying you should live that way. We're just saying these are some options for how you can live. These are ways that people are doing things that have some great results. For some people, they're going to say, oh, you know, if I did that, my kids would be just totally wild. They'd have no sort of sense of responsibility and that sort of thing. How do you respond when you hear those sort of things?
I could just easily just say, how are our kids looking right now on video? Totally unschooled. No one's bouncing off the wall. There's no fires burning. You know, we talked about, hey, we're going to do a little interview. Who wants to sit on the couch with us? Oh, I do, I don't. You know, it was very, very easy to have them come over. We didn't have to bribe them with a new toy or cake or anything.
Well,
you know,
they had the freedom to take part in this, for example, or not, like they always do. And Tiffany wanted to be here, but didn't want to be on camera. That's her right, and it's fine. All the kids that are here with us want to be here, and they want to be a resource and to help. I know the wife swap experience, people ask me all the time, like, how could you make your kids do that? Or they'll say that. And we just kind of laugh and say, no, this was a family decision to do something like that. We discussed it for a long time before we decided to move forward with it. And all the kids were wanting to do it. I know when Devin met Cindy, I don't think he'd ever really been around somebody so authoritarian. And in one of the scenes.
I haven't been around someone like that before.
Do you want to share a little bit about it, like your experience of?
At first, she seemed super nice, but I mean, I knew she wasn't gonna be. I was like, oh no, she can't. This is fake. She's being fake. And then when it was her turn for the rules and she came in full camo, I was like, oh man, okay. She's been faking all this the entire time.
yeah.
And
Yeah, no, I was laughing when I was watching how you reacted to her, and I really liked how your kids did react. They didn't cry or yell or scream. They just tried to negotiate, and this woman was just not in a negotiating sort of a way of living, and so eventually Devin went on strike. I love that. You have to watch it. It was amazing.
These kids are going to be unplugging all the electronics, that's your iPods, your phones.
You don't want them to get any education through electronics today?
That's not education.
Just relax, honey.
And for my last and final rule, it's time for some real education. You will be going to school.
I think it's ridiculous that you would bring that many rules to the table after you have barely connected with the children. You haven't given them any educational influence at all.
Because your wife don't. So I did exactly what your wife did.
Of course she does.
Of course she does. How dare you? Well, you, first of all, I will eat you up and spit you out.
You will not touch him.
No, you check him and tell him, you don't holler at me, kiddo.
I was going to say, as far as we didn't really answer your question, we kind of sidestepped on it. As far as we just share information with our kids. And you have a 4-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, whatever the ages are. If you were to just walk into a store and they started to get loud and all you did was say, stop it or I'm taking away your cookies, what's the kid going to do? They're going to get scared and sad that you're taking away their cookies, and they're probably going to get even louder and cry some more. But with our kids, we go into a store, and if they get loud, or this is years ago, not now, obviously, but when the stage is being set, and you say, hey, we're in a store, this isn't a playground, we can't climb on the shelves, something might break, they'll get mad, they'll come kick us out. They just take your word for it because they've been entrusted. They trust you since day one. We've caught them when they've fallen. We've been there to guide them throughout everything. So they will pretty much trust our advice from the first time we give it, instead of having to, please stop it. Oh, you stop it or I'm going to be mad. Oh, you stop it. Your cookies are going to get taken away. That's it. The cookies are getting taken away. That's it. Tomorrow's getting taken away. We've never had to do that. I mean, it's so
Right.
the kids don't get wild. The kids don't act like that unless they're able to, and then we're all wild. And if we go to the water park, cannonballs are galore. If we're
Probably get pretty wild down there, Jeff.
yeah, if we're in the grocery store, everybody's
Great.
respectful.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of not controlling your children and fearing them into obedience. So much of parenting that's promoted today, even what they call gentle parenting, gentle discipline and so forth, is really based in fear and control. And it is never a pleasant way to parent. Parents say all the time to me, how am I going to get a break? This is just so awful. I need time away from my kids. And because if you're told to control another human being all day, every day, you never could be happy. It's not a pleasant way to be, and I don't believe it's a natural way to be. So when you're parenting in partnership and everyone's needs matter, I mean, you have ups and downs, but generally you just live together harmoniously, and you don't need to get away from everybody all the time.
Yeah, no, it's a complete shift in a way of life that is so much better, in my opinion. And I came across Dayna nearly 2 years ago. She was on a friend Stefan Molyneux's program, and I'd been following Stefan and how he was talking about peaceful parenting, and I really got into that. And then when I found out about unschooling, I was fascinated. But I'd already started doing the peaceful parenting. I never have ever hit my kids. It's just not my nature to do anything like that. But my wife is a Mexican from this culture, and there's a little bit of yelling at kids and a little smack on the butt if they do something you don't like. And I actually got my wife within a matter of days to understand about peaceful parenting, and it changed our household just night and day. The kids used to cry quite a bit. They'd get angry, they'd yell. Once we went to a very peaceful way of living and a very negotiation-based, where, for example, my daughter, if she wants an iPad app, I'll say, how much is it? And she'll say, it's about $3. And I'll say, well, you got to make $3. And she'll say, well, how do I do that? And I'm like, you better find a way to help somebody or give somebody a product or service they want. And so if I do need something, for example, if I didn't feel like going upstairs to grab something, I'll pay her $1 to go get something for me. So it's all very this sort of way of living, which I can tell by your laughter that you haven't even thought about that sort of style. So that's why this is going to be so great, is that we can all exchange ideas on what works and what doesn't work. And the one last thing I want to mention about that is it did change our house dramatically. Now we have kids come over from school, and you can tell they've been raised very differently than how we have been doing things. And it was about a few months ago, and I heard the sound in our house, and I couldn't identify it. I was like, what is that horrible sound? And I went upstairs, and I looked at both my kids, and they both looked like they're in shock. And I said, what's going on? What's that sound? And they just pointed at the other kid, and the kid was just screaming and crying. And I was like, why is he doing that? And they're like, we don't know. And I was like, we just don't even understand crying and screaming. It doesn't really happen anymore. It's just everything's very calm, that's the thing that you were trying to explain earlier, is just because you live this way doesn't mean your kids are just out of control and running all over the place. I've found that people who live this sort of way, their kids are very, very calm. Not always, obviously. Life happens to everybody, and there's going to be times where things get a little bit crazy or wild or whatever. But in general, they're just much more relaxed and calm and not screaming or crying or doing all those sort of things.
No, definitely. And I think that, a lot of times, we've had over the years kids that were more traditionally parented or even in school come to the house. And it's almost like a dog that smells fear, is when that child smells freedom. They are the most wild one, the one jumping off the roof onto the trampoline, like doing things that their parents would never let them do. Because they're allowed the freedom to do it. We had a girl over once, this was years ago, there we broke out some candy, or I don't know if it was Halloween candy, I can't remember the exact incident, but she was just like a squirrel. She had candy coming out of her pockets, and it was crazy. And it was because she was, my mom would never buy me this candy. And we were just like, we've had it for a month, and the kids haven't even eaten it, So it's interesting to see once, when freedom is laid onto someone who's been controlled for so long, they just go with it, they run with it, and they don't know how to control it.
Yeah, well, I think it's important for people to realize that if they're coming from a more authoritarian style parenting to a more peaceful-based parenting, is once you let go of control, kids have to really rebuild their trust of you. I mean, so much of this parenting is trust, and when you punish children and use fear and pain to manipulate their behavior, they don't trust you anymore. So that is a really common experience for people. Letting go of control is for the child to want to do nothing but what was controlled. But in time, when that trust is built and the freedom is permanent and they know that, things balance out.
Now, one thing, a lot of times people say, I don't have time to tell my kid or explain to my children that they can't run in the store because of manager and the blah, and they're getting kicked out or whatever it is. And the truth of the fact is, you're still going to have to say, please don't do it. I told you to stop. I'm taking away the cookies. You don't get cookies tomorrow either. And then not only that, you have to do that every single time you go to the store. Where with our children, we've kind of set up this dynamic that, what's the matter?
The camera.
The camera stopped?
Yeah, turned off, I don't know how long ago.
Okay.
Videotaped.
Sorry about that. We dropped the camera for a few minutes there, but we're now back. But this camera only records for 10 minutes due to some government regulation. As usual, the government's always sort of messing with us.
I think this camera might go a little longer than that, so we'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, in any case, we should sort of start to wrap it up. I want to leave some of this stuff for your entire full-day seminar down here. It's going to be fantastic and exciting. And so for people out there, if you've been thinking about these things, you really should consider coming and being a part of this one-day event. It's going to be on February 26th, and it's going to be just the day before the Anarchapulco conference, which is going to be amazing. So many amazing people. I'm really excited. So many past guests of Anarchast are going to be there, literally dozens and dozens, and all amazing people. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be a great group of people, and we're going to all exchange ideas on how we live our lives, what works, what doesn't work, and also have a lot of fun. So I don't know if you guys want to wrap up with any sort of final comments or anything like that. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that if you're curious about this type of parenting, connect with me. We'll talk about the event happening down there and get you down there, because I think it's easy for people to know what not to do. When parents come new to peaceful parenting, they know what they don't want to do. They know they don't want to punish or control, but they don't know what to do instead. And I think that's the hardest part, is giving people tools, because they assume that unschooling or any kind of peaceful parenting is really hands-off. It's been called unparenting before. Like, the media really wants to promote anything but authority and control as being permissive and dangerous and hands-off. In fact, it's not at all. It's a very hands-on role. You're very involved and connected with your kids, but learning tools and ways to be able to heal from your own childhood so you're able to be the best, most peaceful parent possible is really important.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that pretty much everything you hear from the media and the government, that everything they say is bad. Usually it's the opposite. The same way with anarchy. They always say, oh, anarchy is terrible. Anarchy just means you want to have peaceful, voluntary transactions with other people. So if you ever hear in the news about how something's bad, unschooling's bad, homeschooling's bad, anarchy's bad, turn off the TV. Those things are there to control you. You even hear about Acapulco is bad. There was a travel alert the other day about Acapulco, and I asked everyone in Acapulco if anything bad had happened recently, and no one knew anything about it. So you just have to really realize that if the media and government are really against something, it's probably a really good thing. So you should at least check it out, and that's one way you can, is by coming down here to Anarchapulco. So I know you guys are running out of another camera length here. Do you have anything else you want to add, or should we wrap this up and we'll see you in a few months in Acapulco?
Yeah, I mean, just to close out on my end anyway, I would say that, trust your children. Children are very intuitive. They know when they're hungry, they know when they're tired. And, to force any of your beliefs or your, upbringing onto them is just a negative way to go through life. And it's so much easier to live this way.
Yeah, positive intent. Assuming positive intent is key. Our culture assumes negative intent of everybody, and especially children. So just assuming positive intent can change your life. So we'll talk more about that when we get down there in a couple months. So thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks.
It's my pleasure. Totally. It's awesome. I love everything you guys are doing, everything I hear you're doing, and it's going to be so great to have you down here right on the beach, right behind me in Acapulco, February 26th, and then the conference February 27th to March 1st. If you have any interest at all in these sort of things, you should definitely check it out. We're going to have a lot of fun and exchange a lot of ideas, and it's going to be great. So I'd like to thank the Martin family, very radical, unschooling family, and really great. Everything I know about them. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone in person in a few months. And so that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
This is Anarchast.